Hi, welcome to another one-to-one thing drop-in water cooler event. My name is Steve Wright. Welcome you here, and this is sort of as I introduce it, it's my little space in the virtual world. This is being streamed to my Facebook group, the Managers Who Lead, and also within LinkedIn as a LinkedIn Live. So I'm excited to be here. Always nervous, and to be frank with you, it's always daunting when you turn on that live button. So come talk to me, and so I'm not so alone. And just it'd be interesting to find out how people are dealing with or working with LinkedIn lives and showing up as real and authentic and transparent as they can do, especially in a world where we're very much inundated with um, imagery and trying to be our best selves. So, like I said, I'm here. It's my water cooler event. I have invites from all over the place. Oh, Justin's just joined me, and there you go. Justin, how are you, buddy?
Are you?
I can't hear you.
Oh,
Um,
it's probably my fault. Uh,
um, try that again.
how about now?
Oh, there we go. Yeah, it may be my side.
I
Good.
think it
How are
it
you?
could be me too. I don't know.
You're looking very sharp there. I like your kitchen.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's my grandma's china cabinet behind
Oh,
me.
yes, you're still there. How's that
Yeah,
going?
it's not bad.
Yeah. Ah, that's good. That's good. Good to see you, man. The camera's nice and clear as well. That's
I got a new camera.
oh, good. Ready for the
Yeah,
podcasting.
yeah.
Nice, nice. Okay, that's
So
are
it, I
you
mean, it looks good on my side. You're saying it looks good on your side too?
oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
much
That's
better than before. Yeah.
yeah, night and day. What did you get?
It's a Logitech. Had the box C920.
Okay. 4K? It's a 4K camera?
I think it's just 1080p.
1080p? Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean it's you're not going to see much of a difference, especially on streaming
Yeah,
on
and
streaming
then
platforms.
when it's compact like that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. I had Carl with me last week, and he was having. It was interesting to see on this platform in Restream that he was getting sync issues, voice and audio, video and audio, and I'll keep an eye. I came on literally right at the last minute here because I'd reset my machine just to kind
Oh,
of clear everything off, just to
that helps, doesn't it?
yeah, make sure it wasn't on my side. Although I'm streaming too, so I don't. It's not like I'm running anything locally apart from managing the page. So I don't know why people would have an issue. But there you go. So how you been doing?
All right.
Yeah,
Just, living life,
there you, there you go.
whatever that means. It varies
Yes, yeah.
from time
No,
to
I
time.
I I get it. I get it. I kicked off my third 12-week year this week. So week 27, which means that we're halfway through the year, which is
Yep.
a total mind blowing
Yeah.
concept already.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I heard of something about being halfway through the year this year means that we're closer now to 2050 than we are to 2000.
oh yeah,
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 that's mind blowing because 2000 seems like it's not that far back.
yeah,
And 2050 seems like way in the future.
yes, yeah. Well, it's the who shared it with me? Yeah, Carl again was sharing um Parkinson's law around how work expands to fill the time.
Right.
So the part of the concept of the 12-week year is to compress, um, I guess, compress the perception of time. And really, for me, it's periodization. It's putting things into a frame or a time box that you can sort of apply reasonable, tangible goals to or activities to, and it creates a sense of urgency. And Carl is coming in right now. But one of the things we talked about was um, the hey Carl, your ears must have been burning. We're just talking about you.
I'm trying. I don't know if you can hear me, but
I,
I'm trying to.
I can hear
I'm
you.
trying to shut you up
Oh,
because you're
I'm
talking
on
Good
another.
somewhere
luck with
else.
that.
I've got two Steves
Good
and
luck with
one
that.
is enough. Hang on a minute. Let me just kill that feed. There we go. That's
But
better. Now I
but
can hear you.
yeah, but
Sorry about that.
Gates law. I didn't know it was attributed to Bill Gates, but the Gates law. Gates law is that we underestimate what we can do we overestimate what we can do in a year and underestimate what we can do in a decade.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, you know what? You could even break that down. It doesn't have to be a year and a decade. It could be a month and a year.
Yep.
You know,
Probably true too.
and
Yeah.
it could be a week and a month. So that whole concept of creating that sense of urgency without the burnout, I think you know
The renewal
when
probably helps with that, right? Like you say, when it rolls over, then you've got a sense of renewal there.
yes,
Yeah.
I get 4 new years, man. This is January for me, so which means I can put year 2 behind me and focus on year 3. And so yeah, but Carl, I did pull down the agile document that you sent me the link to.
Yeah.
And
How'd you get on with it?
yeah, I skimmed it I skimmed it at first. I haven't had time to really go through it, but I understand where you're coming from in terms of that methodology and the sprint the sprint mindset. I mean, Justin's aware of that in his role as well. So yeah,
Hi,
just I
Justin.
guess making sure things are in the right place, and things are appropriate to the block that you're working with. But yeah, it was good. But I and also this is my little confession corner as well here. I'll shut up after this one, I promise, Carl.
The secrets are coming out now.
No, well, it's funny because this platform and this environment, the water cooler is obviously a big rock for me. It's something I do every week, and
Unless you're in France.
unless I'm in France, yes, yeah. I have to have a really good reason not to rock up at the water cooler. And this morning, I've had a kind of interesting morning, a difficult morning actually. If it felt like I can only liken it to Superman being next to kryptonite. You know how the whole concept of Superman was that he's the superhero, he's Man of Steel, is is impenetratable. You can't
Right.
defeat him. And actually, the whole story arc of Superman was difficult because he had no weakness, which made him almost a boring character. He would always win or always come out on top. And I think the writers introduced kryptonite after creating the character of Superman. And it's interesting. Kryptonite is a substance from his home planet. It's not like something from outside that someone created to defeat him. It's from his roots. It's from his origin. And even that concept, I was laying in bed, I'm thinking, man, this feels like kryptonite. There's something in my origin that is not bringing me down. Kind of sounds weird, but is definitely not enabling me. So whether it's a belief, we've talked. Carl's a coach. We've been in that space where beliefs can be that kryptonite for us. But it's just an interesting way of presenting that feeling in terms of it being something that is not necessarily something outside pressuring me, but maybe that sense of I've got kryptonite in somewhere around me. There's kryptonite, and I'm not feeling it. I need to find out where it is.
You're feeling it, but you don't know what it is. You're saying.
And my description of it came. That's the thing that came to me. That frame of it not necessarily being sometimes an outside stimulus or an outside impulse could affect how you feel or how you believe.
Sure.
But this one felt like maybe it was something outside, and it brought up the kryptonite in me, and it felt like so. But again, you have the opportunity. I think you have the opportunity to now you've kind of framed something and you can work with it. You now can actually work to address it. This is my anti-kryptonite space. and you guys are definitely kryptonite busters. So I definitely appreciate you being here.
Well, what you said, Steve, I'm just going to read it as I saw it. This is a quote from Jasmine Alec, who's someone that I suggest you all follow on LinkedIn. Full of wisdom, lots of followers, knows LinkedIn inside out. But this is what he said on the post today, which I commented on. It's not who you are that holds you back. It's who you think you're not. Wasn't that powerful?
That is.
So it comes from within us. It is our limiting beliefs. We can't do this and we can't do that. When actually, I can, should be the thing we lead with. But that thing, as you say, is from your origin. It's from your subconscious holding you back. Was there anything in particular that you were struggling with? That, you know, if you want to share it. If not, don't.
Yeah. I don't. It was kind of. It felt like there's elements to it. I think there was the overarching thing felt like kryptonite, and there may be a number of issues or things coming up. Just some external inputs or pressures, but it felt like the overarching thing was just me. Not that, I guess it's malaise. It's almost, you know, I think, it's not depressive. It's not a syndrome like depression. I think I have enough sort of markers and guardrails to see if there is a depressiveness to it. But it just felt like there wasn't one thing, to answer your question. There wasn't necessarily one thing, but it just felt like there was a kind of this ickiness. And the thing is, I actually, part of that working belief is looking for the positive intent of something that is holding you back, because there is often, and I'd say often rather than making an absolute, but there's often a seed of positivity in the belief that is withholding you. And looking for that is key for me. And also just recognizing that I recognize something. It's like, you know, I've got to give myself a pat on the back for that.
Yeah.
Because recognizing that you recognize it is the first step of actually either addressing it. And then again, I am always blessed and grateful for allies in my space, you know, and, you know, showing up here, whether it's going to just be me talking about my 12-week year starting this year, or whether it's going to be two of my best allies coming in and having a chat. It's, you know, it's a turnaround already. And I love that quote. I'm going to have to, I do follow Yasmin as well. So
yeah.
very cool.
Yeah. He's very good. Very, some of his stuff is quite deep, actually. And I mean, this is why he's done so well in life. He's, you know, he's a people person and a really good writer.
Yeah.
Yeah. First and foremost, that's his skill. And great follower of his.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about that identity stuff here lately too. I started, Steve, maybe per your recommendation, not sure 100%, but I started reading the Atomic Habits.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about leading with identity, right? At the start of that book.
Yeah.
And, you know, putting some intention, putting some will behind I am this or I can that. But then I'm also, so to be fair, I read a chapter or two or three maybe, and kind of put it down, not because it wasn't good. I actually thought it was really good. It is what it is. That was at the start of this year. But I've been listening to Ryan Holiday, Ego is the Enemy, and he's actually saying, don't get over invested in identity. And so because of the pitfalls of ego. And so I'm curious, both you guys, how would you put those two together?
I like both of those authors, actually.
I know, that's why I'm definitely curious to get your insight.
There's the stoic, the
Well, and I will
stoic in
preface,
me.
preface the Ryan Holiday piece by, I think ego is the enemy is kind of, it is, but it's before he really committed to the stoic lifestyle, and it's definitely before the obstacle is the way.
Mm.
And so I think it may be like proto stoic, but anyway, go ahead. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts, Carl?
Well, I haven't read any of his work, and actually, I can see the delay has kicked in straight away. I don't know if you can. Can you see?
Yes, it has. It has now, but
my mouth is out of
Justin,
sync with what I'm saying.
You're back in now, I think. Clap your hands.
Hello.
Clap,
might be
clap your
better. Yeah,
hands.
it's come back, and I'm not running through a VPN.
Okay.
I've switched that off, and I've got a call at 5 o'clock, but I'll leave this browser window open in case it carries on the upload like Riverside does, just in case. So you should get.
I don't think it does because
Really?
like I said to you, the recording is the stream is recording this page, and it doesn't have a separate upload feed like Riverside.
Okay, right. Well, to just come back on what you were saying, Justin, I don't recall reading any of Ryan Holiday's stuff, but with James Clear on Atomic Habits, it's a great book. I've read it a few times, and the thing is, doing a little bit often, taking those micro steps towards what it is you're trying to achieve that are the big things. That's what stands out for me. And from a psychology point of view or behavioral science, we're looking at the principle of commitment and consistency, where a small commitment to doing something, particularly a public commitment. So if I said I'm going to take one less sugar in my tea, I don't take any sugar in my tea or my coffee, and I'm going to do it from today. And I kind of said it to you guys here, and I'd kind of be obliged to keep up with that, to be consistent with what I've committed to. And a true story, I used to go, there was, when I was working in London, a very close colleague, we were working on a big project. We'd go to a certain coffee bar to get the coffee, and I didn't really like the coffee. In fact, I hated the coffee from there, but I just went there because he liked it, kind of thing. And I disliked it so much, I compensated for the taste of the coffee by putting sugar in it. And I mean lots of sugar. Those little strips of sugar you get in the coffee thing? I worked out a way of making it look like I put 3 sugars in my coffee, which is quite a lot. But actually, I put 3 times 3, 9 sugars. And it was only one day when I'd forgotten to kind of put the wrappers in my pocket. We were sitting at the table. He looked down and saw the empty sugar wrappers, and expletives came out. And he said, "How much sugar have you put in your coffee? Have you got any coffee with your sugar?" And all of that. And I said, "Oh yeah, but I could give that up." He said, "No, you can't." He said, "Not with that much." Yeah, I could do that. And from that moment on, I said, "Okay, from tomorrow, you'll see I take no sugar in my coffee whatsoever." And that was the moment I stopped having sugar in my coffee. And at the same time, I started to taste coffee, because what I did, we went to better coffee joints and got better tasting coffee, I didn't want to master flavor. So It was that, I think with Atomic Habits, it draws on the principle of commitment and consistency. I made the commitment, yes, I can give up all this coffee now or from tomorrow. And then I had to follow through with that because I'd made that open commitment. And if you do the same with things in your life or your work in the way that James Clear has broken it down, it only needs to be something simple. I could have just said, I'm going to give up taking 1 sugar sachet in my coffee. I'll take the other 8, but I won't have, I'll give up this 1. But I went for a big one, which was getting rid of all of it. But the problem was I didn't need the sugar. I actually needed to drink better tasting coffee, and it wasn't about spending more money, because we could go down the road and spend the same amount and get decent coffee. So all I'm really saying is that book, those 3 chapters that you've read, I know that there is enough in there for you to start small, make those commitments, and just follow through with them. If you make big commitments, it's going to be almost impossible to follow through. But I did feel that the book became a little bit more challenging to read after the first few chapters anyway. So there might be something in that. But definitely, if you go back to those 3 chapters and just look at the small stuff, make one small commitment, let others know you've made that commitment, and you will find it works.
I may have to commit to reading the book.
That's the good stuff. Well, you could read all of it, but if you've only read 3 chapters, you've read enough already to start. Don't wait until you've read the book.
Yeah,
Start
fair enough.
doing what you want to do. That's the key thing, I'd say, out of that.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. Yeah, the commitment, the commitment is that sort of identity shift, and then the consistency is living in that new identity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my story of identity shift is when I committed to cooking more dinners at home, and I read it was Tim Ferriss's book, 4 Hour Chef. 4 Hour Chef.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and just the concept. I mean, he has the wherewithal to call on experts in the field and say, this is a project that I'm working on, and frame it in such a way that people go, yeah, I'll have some of that, and then sort of literally spend a weekend with these top chefs, and sort of broke down some of the mechanics of preparing food, prepping food, cutting. There's a whole chapter on how to cut, and sort of the foods. Go ahead.
I've heard you talk about, kind of mindful cutting of your food. Is that what was? It was inspired by that book?
Yes. I mean, it just the idea of prepping food. I mean, this is pre-vegan, so even then, just preparing food in such a way that you're thinking of the meal. I used to think of food because my wife would cook. And then I'd walk up and the food would be there on the table.
Yeah.
And then for me to actually think about cooking, there's all of the pre-work,
right,
from the store to the kitchen, from the pantry or the fridge to the prepping area, from the prepping area to the actual cooking.
Yeah.
And then plating. I mean, I even thought about plating. To that end, after reading the book, I was in a thrift shop. I was Ambets or somewhere, and I found a chef's jacket. And I bought a chef's jacket, full on.
Yeah.
And I mean, my family thought I was kind of, the girls were like, what's this guy?
Of course.
But when I wore that chef's jacket, 1, they knew I was cooking dinner.
Yeah.
2, they better eat it because I've got the chef's jacket.
Yeah.
And I took on the identity of a chef.
Right.
Does it make the food taste better? I thought it did.
It probably does.
But you lean into that identity, and that's where to Carl's point, that's where the commitment comes in, because you've taken on that mantle.
Yeah.
Your mindset is different.
Yeah.
So, and then is that making ego the enemy? I don't know. I think that's a positive use of ego. Understanding that there's something in you that puts on the jacket.
Yeah.
Right. It's not that I don't walk around in the jacket when I'm not cooking. Right. It's not as if that persona dominates every area of my life, or should it? I don't walk to work. I don't walk up in work with a chef's jacket on to do a piece of coding or computing work. So
right. But I mean, it can inform your daily walk, though, right? You're going to say, you're going to have at the top of mind, I'm a chef. I'm not wearing the jacket, but I'm still a chef. And that means, that's going to inform the decisions you make throughout that day, right? From buying and prepping and all of that, like that identity underpins not everything, but a lot of how you're going to conduct your daily life, right?
Yes. I think there's a meta part. You're going, Carl. Thanks, bro. Good
to
see
see you. So, sorry, Steve F. Word Ramsey. I'm looking forward to seeing you in your chef suit. Lovely to meet you, Justin.
Yeah,
I can
you too.
see that you two are both in sync and I'm not. So
Oh,
we'll have another chat about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
both of you are perfectly in sync. When you watch back the recording, you'll see what I mean.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I see it now. I'm not sure what's going on there. Maybe
Yeah.
we'll have to do a one-to-one and see if we can work out what the settings
Yeah,
are.
we'll do that. Lovely to meet you, Justin.
yeah,
All
you
right.
too, Carl.
Great. See you, Carl. But yeah, I think there's a part of that process that says there's a meta, there's an alter, there's another part of yourself that takes on the ego.
Mm.
Because you can wake up and say, I could say I'm going to cook today, therefore I'm going to have my chef's mindset on.
Yeah.
And also certain identities lead into other identities. When at Cyrusson as a team lead, that a lot of my sort of metaphors were around basketball.
Yeah.
Sean plays basketball. It was an easy one. I played basketball growing up,
Right.
and the idea that it's not one person. It's not a single sport, and it's not a large team. It kind of matched the size of our team in terms of being basketball, and there are specialties within that lineup of a basketball team, but at the same time, everybody has to be able to rebound. Everyone has to be able to shoot. Everyone has to take a free throw. There's elements that everyone has to have, and you set that expectation. So I rock up, at work, and we got team meetings, and I'm thinking, okay, I've got my coach hat on. I'm going to use those metaphors, whether you play the game or not. People,
it's understandable. Yeah,
can buy into it. But there's a part of my ego that has to pick up that persona or pick up that identity. And you look for the things that serve you in either sharing the story or sharing the metaphor. It's relatable to the team that you're working with. It doesn't have to fit exactly. The Australians don't play basketball.
Right. Of course.
They play Aussie rules, which is a whole nother.
Yeah, I don't even know what that means. Yeah, I don't even know what that means.
Only Australians know what Aussie rules means.
Yeah.
But so yes, to that point of identity informing consistency and commitment from James Clear's standpoint, and then Ryan Holiday's position in terms of don't be so caught up in your ego.
Well, I mean, what I thought was really interesting is, I mean, to boil these down to just super high level, James Clear is like, adopt an identity, because it is going to inform consistency. It is going to inform habits. It is going to inform a daily walk. And Ryan Holiday is like, don't get so caught up in your identity. And so like one is like, yes, do it. And the other's like, no, don't. And I'm like, okay. I don't recall exactly why. I mean, you might have better insight into it than I do, but like I don't recall exactly why he was kind of poo-pooing the idea of being anchored in an identity. I just remember thinking like that's very strange because what James Clear said made so much sense. Obviously we've talked at length already.
Yeah.
And don't be so anchored in identity felt less sensible. I didn't understand it, and I was just curious if you had any thoughts about those conflicts.
I think part of it is that it's like that the golden circles, the start with why, and your identity is in the middle. So a lot of psychology, logical levels, and that sort of mindset talks really about behavior being informed by identity.
What I really like about James Clear's kind of concept of identity is you want to get to an outcome, right? I want to be a better basketball player, whatever. I want to get to an outcome which is going to take consistency and it's going to take commitment, but I adopt an identity that allows me to reach that outcome, right? That makes so much sense.
Yes. Yeah.
And I mean that's the shift that has to happen, right? People stumble with whatever it is until they have that mental shift of identity that allows them to kind of create that consistency and commitment, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
And that's why I was so taken aback by Ryan Holiday saying, "Oh, don't get so caught up in identity." Like,
Yeah.
what does that mean?
Did he expand on that? Because I think from a Stoic standpoint, it can be like you got this halo effect whereby you can adopt adopt an identity that makes everything personal, pervasive,
Yeah.
permanent around you.
Yeah.
And I don't know which book it was in.
Have you read that one, Ego is the Enemy?
No,
Okay.
no, I haven't. I've got the three. What was it?
The Obstacle
I've
is
got
the
the
Way.
Daily Stoic, and I've read The Enemy. The Obstacle is the Way.
Yeah.
But there was either in a newsletter or something around him. It could have been some of the. It could have actually probably one of the other. I've read some of the Stoics, Marcus Aurelius,
Yeah.
and
Seneca.
Seneca, Epictetus. I can never say
Yeah.
his name.
Epictetus. Yeah.
Epictetus. Yeah. And there was a concept of, if you were someone who had attended 1,000 funerals, if you were someone who's attended 1,000 funerals, your mindset, even like your identity, if you like, around attending a funeral, sitting next to someone who has attended their first funeral, would be very different.
Mm-hmm.
And where am I going with that in terms of identity? Is that there is in that case, your approach to the event is going to be very different, although you're both at the same event.
Mm-hmm.
From someone who's done it 1,000 times versus someone who's done it once. Sometimes we can get caught up in being embroiled in our identity,
Mm-hmm.
when in some respects the person going to the funeral for the first time gets caught up in, woe is me, this is terrible, this is, it's gonna affect me for the rest of my life, it's personal, it's permanent, I'm always going to feel this way, it's pervasive, this is just all around me.
Right.
And then the person who is not devoid of an identity but has a different perspective on the event comes at it and says, this event is not you.
Right.
This event is what you show up at.
Mm-hmm.
And not that you have to show up 1,000 times to be different. It's just that you have to recognize that it's an event that you're showing up at. So investing your identity into an event is not necessarily going to serve you.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So
it's got to be more in that vein, right? It's got to be more in that vein.
Yeah. And without sort, I mean, Clear makes a stronger connection between the value of an identity to getting things, to the atomicity of habits helping you get to where you're going.
Right.
And Holiday, if Holiday just says, don't get caught up in your identity because it's your ego. I get where he's coming from, because we can make events our identity.
Mm-hmm.
We make roles our identity.
Sure.
And that's more of a finer, a nuanced.
And that's probably more in line with the ego thing, right? Like don't get so caught up in that identity, right?
Yes. Yeah. Confounding a role with your identity. I mean, my role has changed. My role has changed throughout my life, or
Right.
my roles have evolved or changed throughout my life. I may still have the name, but a dad of a newborn is not the dad of a toddler, the dad of a teenager,
or a grown person,
the dad of an adult.
Yeah. It's vastly different.
Oh my goodness.
Vastly different.
So if you get yourself caught up in identity, if you make the role your identity, and you're dragging that identity off. Whoa, there's just 2 minutes ago they were in my arms,
Mm-hmm.
and now they're off to school. You know, you've got to you've got to shift. You've got to shift that. You got to
Yeah.
delineate between the role and the identity. Because you get, and we do that. We do that. We can do that in terms of life roles. We can do that in terms of experiential viewpoints. You know, as something major happens to us in
Mm-hmm.
life, and we may not even go from the experience to a role. We may just go from the experience to an identity. You know, I I've not experienced major trauma that would change my identity.
Mm.
But I could imagine that a traumatic event could inform an identity without even
Mm-hmm.
going through the role stage, if you like.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so although interestingly, I mean, it's not the same by any stretch, but you know, becoming vegan was one of those things that informed. It went to identity pretty quickly, and it also is both a role. It's something I'm mindful of, and I'm consistently reminding myself of the value of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if a doctor rocked up to me and said, "Steve, we've seen your bloods, you need to eat meat,"
Mm-hmm.
then that identity now becomes a role, because my identity of being a healthy person or sustaining my life productively is going to supersede the role of being vegan.
Right.
So so understanding, I think that delineation is going to be key. I don't know if I'm explaining what Ryan's thinking in that phrase, but that's my
I think it'll probably help me if I go back to that passage and try to like understand it. I think it'll help for sure.
yeah.
Do you have you ever read any Robert Greene?
Yes, the power guy, the rules of power.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got. Yeah, there was a guy that was, I forgot I think he's one of those VC guys. There's someone else that turned me on to his book. Turned me on to Robert Greene because he referred to it in his book. His name escapes me, but he was like an adrenaline, one of those adrenaline junkie type guys, and
Mm-hmm.
and he mentioned Robert Greene's work.
So
Yeah,
did you read 48 Laws?
I did a while. I listened to it a while
Okay.
back.
Yeah, that's what I've done. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't remember any of them. I mean, the overarching thing is that it's interesting having laws, because it's sort of axiomatic. You put laws in there thinking that they're truths. You
Right.
have to apply yourself to those laws to find out if they're true for you. But
Well, and what's funny is I've heard him talking on a podcast. I'm trying to remember. It was Stephen Bartlett. I don't know if you ever listened to Stephen Bartlett, but he was on Stephen Bartlett and was acting like, that they're more flexible than the book made it sound. I mean, I don't know. It was really interesting. Like he said he wrote Mastery. He's got a book called Mastery, and he said basically he wrote Mastery to kind of pull back on 48 Laws because people have been so dogmatic with it. And he said, and I feel like it's just like he's just writing another book to write another book personally.
Yeah.
Like, it's just he's chasing a dollar, whatever.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But he said people got so dogmatic about 48 Laws of Power, and so he wrote Mastery to kind of pull some of that back.
Yeah.
And put it in a better context. But that really undermines the concept of a law and the way the whole book was written, right? Like keys to power, and
Yes.
the little subsections in the chapter like are very aligned towards this is a law. If you do this, you'll get this, etc.
Yeah. And I think that a wider discussion would be like the whole concept of people moving into that space of self-publishing and not being beholden to book agents that sort of say you've got to follow a formula, that that we've seen has been good in the past. Therefore, we want to replicate. We don't want to go too far from that formula to
Right.
get a book out the door. So you've got some great ideas. Let's make them rules.
Yeah.
12 rules. You know, you got
Yeah.
Peterson stuff. 12 rules. 7 habits. I mean,
Covey. Yeah.
although habits sound
More flexible.
softer than
Yeah.
than laws. You
Yeah.
know, so when you get into laws, it does lend itself to be dogmatic. Plus, sometimes you get an inadvertent response from your audience to a book, and you go, "Oh, I didn't. That wasn't my unintended consequence for this book." And the agents go, "Yeah, it's selling like hotcakes, right?
Right.
But it's to an audience that are just
Not necessarily
leveraging it in the
wanted.
wrong way,
Yeah.
or manipulating the concept of a law."
That was the whole book, though. The whole book was like aimed at being deceptive, right? Like, I mean, it says the word deceptive in multiple of the
Yeah,
laws. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
It,
and then he
well,
comes back. He comes back on this podcast and says, "Oh, it's not about manipulation and deception." Then why are those words in there multiple times?
yeah.
That's my point.
Although I've seen people go to Tony Robbins events, and pick up on NLP techniques, and then leave the room, and then go out there and start a website saying how to pick up women using
Yeah.
NLP. You know,
Right.
get 100 dates, 100 nights, 100 dates, and whatever.
Yeah.
Right. And that may never have been the intention in the room when you're talking
Right.
about matching and mirroring, pacing and leading.
Yeah.
Those are techniques, if you like, to build rapport.
Rapport techniques. Yeah.
So it does lend itself to some unintended consequences. If you've got language that says warning, deception alert, you know,
Yeah.
or this could be used in a malevolent way. Even as you're showing it, maybe you're uncovering the malevolence in a process, in a
As a
law,
defensive, from a defensive.
as a watch out for it.
I think the narrator of the recording that I listened to, which I don't think it was an official, it wasn't officially released at all, but the narrator really leaned into some of that stuff, and like I'm not even going to try to do an impression, but like made it sound like this is what you want to do. Be intentionally deceptive, intentionally manipulative. I don't know. It was really, really crazy.
That is interesting. That is interesting. There was a thought I had as you're talking about. As authors that follow up on books that have unintended consequences. I saw an art. It was a interview with Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah.
The guy from I think it was, you were talking about Blink. His
Yeah.
book Blink. That had a 20. I think he re-released the book with like he did a revised edition, because some of was it the Blink or was it the Tipping Point? No, Tipping Point. I think it was Tipping Point, because he had statistics.
Is that the one that asserted the 10,000 hours?
Yes. Yeah.
Tipping Point was,
he's frozen. I don't know what's happened there.
Yeah, I can still hear you. Yeah.
Okay. I think it was Tipping Point. There you go. You're back now. There was some research done in stop and search for police districts in certain parts of certain cities, and they argued that stop and search was dropping crime, and then it got taken up by other police departments, and it was just stereotyping, and they were targeting a particular types of behavior or people, saying no more than that really. And he came back and sort of said, I read my book and I had to I had to rewrite it because people had taken something I had written out of context and applied it, and it's had it's had devastating repercussions from that mindset. Like the 10,000 hours, 10,000 hours thing. It's not even his. It's in his book, but it's not his. It's not
It's
his
been
thing.
attributed to him quite widely, though. Yeah.
Yes, and that's not it's not necessarily true. And also there's it's not just hours. It's perfect practice. It's
intention and
there's a lot more things to it than just spending the hours. And there's lots of ways that you can leverage that time to not do 10,000 hours, especially in today's condensed learning, mind frame. That you don't need to 10,000 hours is not necessarily it's good hours. It's not just a number. But authors coming back on their stuff with unintended consequences. Or I mean, I like Jordan Peterson's books, but I don't like Jordan. I mean, I don't like Jordan Peterson. And I just, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's it feels like he's got a different identity when he wrote from the Jordan Peterson today than the Jordan Peterson that was sort of upholding against, I guess, free speech or railing against the Canadian education establishment coming out on enforcing rules that how am I going to say this? I guess enforcing rules on educators that he felt wasn't appropriate, wasn't thought through. I've listened to some of his stuff on his he's got some religious Christian based.
Well, I think that stuff is dangerous because I don't think he's as properly rooted in the faith as you would want a Christian author to be, right? I think it's interesting. We bought his last book, We Who Wrestle with God, right? It's about the story of Jacob and how it applies to a wider psychological conversation. Very interesting stuff. But again, like I think you have to understand that he's not, he's not I can't even think of a good, like he's not C.S. Lewis, right? Like don't go in, don't read his book thinking he's C.S. Lewis, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's an interesting analogy right there, because
Well, I couldn't think of a better author, a better Christian author.
But that's
I
a good
can't
one.
think of a modern I couldn't think of a modern contemporary, but you get what I'm saying.
Yes. Yeah. And even that's a great one to choose, actually, because even C.S. Lewis's journey through faith was tortuous.
Sure.
And I think Jordan's going through similar stuff. I mean, he's had health and personal things going on, and that create a narrative of what he's doing and where he's going.
I just, like I said, I'm interested in the psychology of the book and all of that, but I wouldn't recommend it to anybody without a grain of salt, saying, he's not a preacher. He's not what I would consider a qualified Christian author. I don't know the ins and outs of his religious walk, but I know he's not he's not somebody that I would look to for, kind of spiritual / Christian advice.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a lot of, there's I guess that the overarching theme is that I mean, we started with belief and identity. The kryptonite in our world. That's definitely a key thing. Like I said, I'm super appreciative of being consistent and committed to this format, the drop-in event, and people showing up or not showing up or whatever. It's secondary to creating that space. And I hope everyone that watches or catches the replay can get a sense of the importance of role, identity, belief in those roles and identities, and also creating and forming that sense of commitment and consistency. Yeah, it is hard. It's hard. It's hard to identify what the, and James Clear talks about sort of the 1% improvement over a year, adding up to compounding to 37 times the benefit, and then a 1% decrease over a year, brings you down to sort of point, I don't know what it was, 0.7, 0.9, or whatever it is. The decrease isn't as low as the increase because it's a smaller number being decremented.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas the compounding of a small increase is there. And we don't always see it. That's kind of, it's kind of trite. I don't think every day can be compounded on the previous day.
Yeah.
There's days that you're just neutral, and even if you have a day that goes down, but if the main thrust of your days is positive, you're going to finish the year net positive in a multiplier rather than a percentage. It'll be more geometric than linear. That's just math.
Days that dip, but long term, long term, the net effect is positive.
Yeah. And
am I frozen again?
And to that point, I mean, that's why the periodization allows me to, the 12-week year allows me to look at that year end in August rather than looking at it in December of the year.
Right.
Or September of the year. So yeah, the 12-week period does definitely help. And I'll touch on it each week here. I was gonna do a little post every week, but I just think in terms of workload and activities, I may just sort of share. This is January, and then so next week will be February. And then I think the theme would be love, self-love, making sure that I'm supported in that. There may be a theme for every month for a 12-week year.
I like that. How does that the self-love piece, does that go back to the 6 dice challenge thing? Are you using that at all?
I am not using that. I will revisit. I'm using Miro to actually look at to kind of manage. I'm using like a Kanban setup so that I can move activities from activities in a month, like a sprint type thing, and move them across. I say I'm using Miro. I mentioned Miro because it allows me to actually keep those 36 post-it notes around.
Yeah.
So although I won't be using, I won't commit to the consistency of using the 6 dice challenge.
Right.
But I'll be mindful of those elements that I put up there in terms of, what I could be doing, should be doing, ought to be doing. That will help. So yeah, it's with regards to, I think a theme for each month in the 12-week year allows me to have sort of an overarching theme that says it's the execution plan, not the steps that I'm taking. I've still got the things to do in that week, but if I've got an overarching theme that says it's really about looking after oneself with those goals or with those tasks that I've got planned for that week. Like the first week of the year is really for me, it's envisioning. I've got a strong vision. I'll share it here. I've got 3 generations at Christmas in Jamaica. My youngest daughter, myself, and my mum. So that's my vision towards the end of the year. That actually happens in year 4, but all the things to make it happen are going to be really impacted by the activities in year 3. So I'm using year 3 to really tie in the steps to make that vision come true. So that's what January is about. People say, "Oh, are you gonna make a New Year's resolution? Are you gonna do what you're gonna do for the year?" And we kind of dismiss it because the year feels so long, and we don't know what we don't know. Therefore, we sort of go, "I'll either make it so vague that I can't miss it, or I won't bother." if I make it too specific, I've run the risk of not achieving it. Therefore, I feel bad for not achieving it and all that stuff.
Right.
Condensing that allows me to sort of really think about what needs to happen in year 3 to make that vision come
Year
true
4 success.
in year
Yeah.
4. Yeah. And year 4 what may not necessarily be about that vision that I had in year
Right.
3. It may be something else. Right?
Yeah.
And I won't go back to year 1 next year. It'll be year 5.
Right.
I'll keep the count going. So, but all that to say that January is about envisioning. February, because it's Valentine's, I think that concept of love.
Yeah.
March and April, we're looking at sort of renewal. It's a springtime.
Right.
So it's really just tying into the seed planting, all of the things that, are you making sure that you've planted the seeds and you know what you're growing. And then later in the year, it's about harvesting what you grew, what you planted.
Mm-hmm.
And then wrapping up the back end of the year is typically harvesting and Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you don't have to be in America to have we have harvest festivals here in the UK. So
Right.
that
Similar time
concept
frame.
of,
Yeah.
that concept of giving, and then you finish the year with Black Friday special. Got to get a
Is
deal
that
in
going to
there.
line up with It's not going to line up with Prime Day, is it? Unfortunately.
No, it may not. I don't know. It might do.
Prime Day is next week, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That would have been funny though if it did line up.
Yeah, and then the December month is really just the gratitude and celebration. So those are that sort of yearly arc that we have across the calendar year can be condensed into the 12-week year. That's my my feelings towards that. They may tie into specific tasks within that week, but they don't have to. But they're just an overarching theme that says, hey, look after yourself. You've got the vision. This week, I won't be thinking about, next week, I won't be thinking about vision because I've really got it in play.
Yeah.
I'm now, working through the stuff. So I like that. It makes me feel good about the condensing without it being too onerous. And the book is very, very much blocking and tackling, very business centric almost. It does smack of trying to get quarterly results through over the line, and it does lean for people who understand agile and sprints to kind of think of it in that way. But my take has really been the first chapter of the book talks about the periodization in terms of I think it was a sports team or someone that just kind of condensed their time and said, let's take this period where I think it was an athlete, they just do starts out of the blocks for a particular period, and then they just do the first 20 yards of a 100-yard sprint, and then they just do the finish, sort of thing. And they realized that rather than training for the whole 100-meter race as a complete, breaking it down into those periods allowed for rest and recovery for the work, and also building. You didn't lose what you learned out of the blocks when you're training for the first 20 yards or first 25 yards. So that was kind of an interesting take on it. But yeah, I'm excited for it. It's the kind of, and I can be held accountable quickly. I didn't have a great year 2. I had a great year 1. That's what I shared about getting that milestone of my mum to the top of Eiffel Tower. Year 2 was kind of interested. It had less vision, and I think that's people perish for lack of vision.
Yeah.
So,
but that informed a good positive structure for year 3, right? Like,
yes,
you recognized,
yeah. I would rather have that wake up call 12 weeks in than 12 months in.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So, so that kind of helps in terms of having a much more, and it creates a sense of urgency without it necessarily being overwhelming. I think you work out your period. 12 weeks doesn't have to be the period. If you're in academia, it could be semesters.
Hmm.
People work out the period that works for them. It could be lunar cycles. It could be,
I'm all for that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think we've lost our calendar that doesn't quite capture the lunar cycle just right. I think we've lost something in that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a powerful one too, because it's the universe telling you.
It's natural. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You go outside, there's no moon.
Right.
You know.
Sleep a little better that night, right? Or you
Yeah.
should, focus more on sleep that night, maybe.
Yeah.
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 Or that whole season of the waxing, the thinning of the moon. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, that ought to lend itself to more rest, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I think there is a, and that's interesting you say that, because it is a matter of being sensitive to what's around you, and sometimes not just going with the flow because it's there. We go with the annual cycle, annual review, or the annual something, just because it's always been there. But that may not be the natural cycle of things. And then we have the hallmarks of the world, and the fashion, the fashion houses,
Right.
imposing periodization on us, imposing
Right.
seasons of, don't wear white after Labor Day and
Right.
all that.
And and a lot of that's completely unnatural, right? Like,
Right.
I mean, they're
It's
pushing,
commercial.
they're probably pushing fall now. It's dead, we're 2 weeks into summer and they're pushing, they're wanting you to think about fall.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. So it's
all commercial. Yeah.
And I think just being aware. I think that the awareness. I mean, we're coming to touch on different things there. That's that part of the ego, right? If you don't know, if you're not in control of your ego, then somebody else will be in charge. Somebody else will
Right.
take control of it.
Yeah. That sounds
And
like
make
Robert
you,
Greene, but
and make it's a law. If you
yeah.
don't control it, somebody else will.
I mean, it's fair. It's true. I mean, there's a lot of truth in that one for sure.
So it's crazy. It's crazy. But that's good. I'm gonna call time on the hour. Yeah. But
Yeah.
Justin, man, it's great to see you.
Yeah.
Give my best to the family. How long you down there for a while yet?
Yeah, it's back and forth. Yeah.
All right, cool. All right. No, that's good. Well, enjoy. Give my best to the family, and we'll
All right.
catch
Thanks,
up
sir.
too. Thanks for joining.
Yeah.
The one dropping the event, check me out, DM me if you'd like to come on this show, and check out stuff I do on the podcast. Justin was an awesome guest. I might have him back again once, or I may be a guest on his podcast. We don't know.
I hope so. I hope so.
How close are you?
I need to put it in my identity so I can get some consistency and accountability, right?
Like I said, you need the metaphorical jacket, the podcast jacket.
Yes.
You got the headphones, you got the baseball cap. You got the Yeti.
Yeah.
You got the Yeti. So yeah, let's do this. Find a platform, invite me, and we'll do a couple of dry runs. Talking heads. We're doing it here now. It's no different.
Yeah.
All right then. Take care. See you all.
Yeah. Bye.